We're going to begin with a new setback for President Biden. He was forced to cancel campaign events in Nevada after a COVID-19 diagnosis. Now, the news comes amid renewed calls for him to drop out of the 2024 race from a growing list of prominent Democrats. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, among them, reportedly spoke privately with President Biden over the phone, saying that the polls show that he cannot defeat Donald Trump in November. So for more on all of this, let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman. And we're also bringing in CBS News political contributor Joel Payne. Good to see you guys. Willie, I'm going to start with you, though. Just kind of bring us up to speed. How is the president doing this morning? How is the White House handling the messaging surrounding his health?
Hey there, Anne-Marie. Good to be with you this morning. Well, President Biden is isolating here at his Rehoboth Beach, Delaware home because of that COVID-19 diagnosis. Now, we know that he tested positive after not feeling well. Yesterday, he had to cancel his appearance at that event, as you mentioned. And the White House says that he will still be able to carry out his duties as president while isolating away from others amid this COVID-19 diagnosis. We know that the president had some mild symptoms. He had a runny nose. Excuse us here, as we're near the fire department, so you're hearing those sirens there. But the president had a runny nose. The president had a non-productive cough, according to a note from his doctor. We also know that he is taking Paxlovid. That's that drug that you take early on in the onset of a COVID-19 diagnosis. And the president perhaps feeling well, isolating a little bit. We haven't yet gotten an update from the White House about his condition today, but I anticipate that will be coming later in the day. The president, of course, has no public events since he's isolating. But as you mentioned, this diagnosis comes at a time of really just uncertainty with his campaign, as more and more Democrats, including prominent Democrats like former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, essentially call for the president to step aside in terms of his campaign for the presidency yet again.
Right. And that's what I want to talk to Joel about. Yep. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, we're hearing reports that she's been speaking privately with the president, showing him polls. We know Chuck Schumer as well has been more public about maybe it's time for him to step aside. So biographer Susan Page was on with John Dickerson last night discussing the impact of all of this. I want to play a little bit of what she had to say, and then I want to talk to you on the back end.
Nancy Pelosi loves Joe Biden and has worked with Joe Biden for decades, but she is not a sentimentalist when it comes to politics. She is a vote counter in the House and a vote counter when it comes to elections. I am told, sources close to Pelosi tell me that she is talking to many, many House Democrats to figure out if Biden could cost them any chance they might have of regaining control of the House.
So, Joel, it certainly seems like Democrats, those who are concerned and those who are not, are finding themselves in this sort of real catch-22, right? If you truly believe that there's a better alternative to President Biden, you may feel compelled to be more and more overt about it, to be more public about it. But the more you do that, the more you are broadcasting to voters that some Democrats do not have faith in Joe Biden. And if he doesn't step aside, that only weakens the candidate. I can't imagine the difficulty. I mean, I guess the question I'm sort of asking you is, how do you strategize your way through this, especially when, it feels like the party's running out of time?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, Anne-Marie. So first, look, I think it's important to point out that Speaker Emerita Pelosi has not publicly called on Joe Biden to step out the race. Neither has Leader Schumer nor Leader Jeffries. However, it's pretty clear that they and the folks around them wanted the public to know that they have had these very candid conversations behind the scenes with the president. I always tell folks that when you see reporting like that, somebody wants you to know. They want you to know that they are having those conversations, because I think they are pretty clear in their assessment that the current state of the ticket is untenable, and that something has to change. Either President Biden's performance has to drastically change, or the dynamics of the ticket have to change. And, for those who've been watching this, Speaker Emerita Pelosi, to me, has been the key figure to watch, because she is the only person within the larger Democratic establishment, the Democratic Party coalition, that has relationships with every constituency. Okay, she's respected by the CBC, Black members of Congress and their constituents, the CHC, the Hispanic constituency, the CPC, the progressives, mainstream, new Democrats, frontline Democrats, people like Jared Golden. She has respect and she has credibility with everyone. So when she speaks, everyone listens because, as Susan Page indicated in that interview with John, she's the best strategist in the Democratic Party. I think in terms of what is the way forward, I think the way forward is to continue to show the president undeniable data, both that shows maybe what his viability is, but also what his real challenges are, and try to have an honest, candid conversation with him and arrive at a quick resolution. The last thing I'll say, I kind of think about this moment as like a kind of jokingly call it the five families of the Democratic Party, right? Like the Obama, the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, Jeffries, they got to come together. They got to sit in a room and they got to hammer this out. And I think that what we're seeing is maybe the beginnings of that process, not as much noise by maybe rank and file members that don't have as much influence, but by the real rainmakers in the party. I think they're getting in a room and trying to figure this out now.
All right. Willie, Joel, thank you very much. Joel, I know we'll be talking again about this.